Hey guys, it's Amanda with Seven Sparrows Farm. Have you had trouble planning your garden or made a plan but then had trouble following the plan when you're in the height of the crazy of gardening season? If that's you, then I want to share a tool that has changed how I handle my gardening, and that tool is SeedTime. Now, we have done videos on SeedTime in the past. However, there have been so many upgrades. So I want to just take you guys in a general overview of what this program is capable of so that you can see if it would be a fit for you. First thing I want to show you guys is this default screen. This is the calendar view of the app. You start by setting up your garden and you start by adding crops. So when you begin this whole thing will be empty. This is my actual garden plan, so that's why it's a mess. But anyway, we're going to start by adding a crop. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say, okay, I want to grow some tomatoes. Whoops. Tomatoes. Scroll down. Tomatoes. I want to do some determinate tomatoes. And then it's going to let me choose a variety. I don't even know what this is, but let's say I want to do baby boomer because that sounds kind of cool. It has this color feature here, and that's going to go into our layout situation. I'm going to skip over the AI stuff for the moment. There is a task series template that you get to have control of. Now, I have mine set up as a simplified list. That means that what I did for my simplified list is I don't include bed preparation or weeding in there. I just want to know when to seed, when to transplant, and when I can expect my harvest. So that's what's included here. Now, if I chose their default seed and transplant, which is how it will default in, and it's a warm season crop, obviously, it's going to include all of these things. You'll see that seeding, it tells me why it's choosing the date that it is. So starts 42 days before the last frost. And that's set up for my zone, which I put in my settings when I set up my account. And this is my anchor task. Basically, what that means is if I move this day, the seeding window that it gives me, everything else will move with that. Now you can change that if you want to, but that's how it defaults set up. It tells me, because I'm back to their default settings, it tells me when to prepare my bed, when to put them out, when to go ahead and do some weeding, and when I can expect my harvest. You'll notice this down here, this add custom tasks function. What sort of custom tasks might you want to add? Well, like for potatoes, you might want to add in that you're going to hill them up every 2 weeks. Or you might want to add in that you want to spray BT on your brassicas every, week or two or whatever. So you can, if there's something you want to do routinely, you can add that in as a custom task. And then if you have a certain way that you've set this up and you want to save it as a template, you can do that down here. And that's what I did with my simplified list. So I removed bed prep and cultivation because I'm out there doing that stuff all the time anyway. I just have my simplified list. But for the sake of following with their program, I'm going to go ahead and schedule this. Right now, the way I have my calendar set up, there's a lot of stuff in it, but I have my tasks unfiltered. So it's showing me all of the things that I'm going to need to do for all of the plants. But you can remove some of those things. So if you want to just see your seedings, or if you want to just see when you're transplanting or when you're harvesting, you can filter by those things. Also, the way I have this set up is in the year setup. So it's each month has its own row, but you can edit that. So I could do it by the month, and that's just like a regular calendar, and that shows me what shows up on the regular calendar. Or you can do it by timeline. This is actually my preferred method. This kind of puts everything in a left to right orientation, so I can see at any one moment what I've got going on. The reason I like this is because I can have the calendar going left to right, but then I can come over here to my crops that I've put in, and I can organize these not by crop, but like seeding date. If that way I'm not hunting through a list like, okay, what do I need to seed now? What do I need to do now? I can come in here and just go, okay, in order of when I need to start seeds, when is everything happening? Or I could do that by in-ground date. When am I transplanting everything? Because that's a little different than seeding sometimes. So now let's come back to our boomer tomatoes. I'm going to move myself so that you guys can actually see. So these are my baby boomer tomatoes that I put in here. And you'll see, because I did not remove the bed preparation or the cultivation, which happens, I think, every 2 weeks in this default setting, it gave me all these extra tasks. Okay. So that's how you get something into your garden plan. Now, you'll notice my other crops have a bed number next to them. And that is one of the biggest upgrades that has come into SeedTime since I've done my last video. Once I've entered a crop in here, then I'm going to go over to my layout feature, like I said. So I'm up here in the left-hand column. That's your little navigation menu. When I click on layout, it's going to bring up this new screen. So this is my garden. Now I set this up in the layout feature. Over here on the left-hand side, you can choose various things. You can just be a pointer, so you can just grab things with that. You can actually do the garden setup. You can import things, which we won't get into that right now. You can put in landmarks, like if you had a greenhouse or your actual house or whatever. This section here is how you actually put in your planting beds, and your planting beds are the only place it will let you put plants. So just know that as you're building those. You won't be able to add plants if it's not a planting location. But then down here is my crop timeline, which is basically a miniature version of your calendar. So I'm going to click on that. A miniature version of my calendar shows up here. So I'm going to scroll down to those boomer tomatoes, which you can see they're kind of grayed out here. And that's because March is not the time to be putting those in the ground. But I can drag this little timeline marker over to when they're supposed to be transplanted, and you see all of a sudden they show up. What I can do now, and I also see all the other things that are scheduled to be in my garden at that point. Okay, it's a little bit of a mess because I'm still in progress, but that's okay, aren't we all? So what I do when I want to add these to my layout is I come up here and I grab my tomatoes and I put it here. Now you get some options with that. If I want more than just one tomato, well, I can just stretch this out and it will just plop a bunch of things in there. It does allow you to layer one plant over another in case you're doing some sort of intercropping or that sort of thing. So if you want to do like a Three Sisters method or something like that, it will allow you to plan for that sort of thing. But you'll notice the size of this circle kind of defaulted in, and that's because in here there are some default settings for plant spacing. So I clicked on the little edit pencil situation. It gives me some options here that I am fully able to change. So the first one is rectangular. And what that means is that if you put more than one row of plants in, it's going to look like these onions here. They're going to be stacked in a rectangular pattern. The other option is offset, which is what like my cauliflower is set up here, so that things will be more in a triangular pattern. And that's totally up to your preference. It can automatically calculate how far apart to put your rows, or you can set how far apart to put your rows, and you can do your spacing however you want. So if you're a square foot gardener and you do really intensive cropping, go for it. You can do that. If you do things a little more wild and free and you want stuff to have spacing because you don't want to water, go for it. You can do that. So all of that is customizable. The next button on here is a duplicate function. So if you did a row of this thing and you want to just drop in another row of it, well, I can do that. I can hit duplicate and it'll give me a second one that I can put, on either side of an arch or whatever. I'm going to delete that second one though. Yes, I want to delete it. So back to my little baby boomer tomatoes that I just threw in here. This is a new feature that is absolutely amazing. It is a companion planting feature. So on any crop that you put in your garden, if you put it in and you're like, what else could I put there with it? Like, I don't know what else or how else to add the other plants. You click on this and it uses AI to give you not only the other plants that do well with it, it tells you how far apart to plant them, how far from your original crop to plant them. It tells you why they're beneficial, and it gives you the source that it pulled it from. So you can vet that and make sure that that's something you want to do. So if you are companion planting to help with pests, you know which one to pick that will help deter pests. If you're companion planting to boost soil health, you know which ones are going to help with soil health. So that's amazing. The other thing that's super cool is if you scroll down to the bottom, it also has a plans to avoid section, because there are some things that just should not go together, that they're allopathic and they will produce a chemical that will actually bother other plants and make them not grow as well. So it will tell you right here, corn and tomatoes should not go together. So that's a really bad place for my, tomatoes that I just dropped in there. But that's good to know. That's very important to know. So that is a feature that has only come out in the last year. Absolutely amazing for that. If I want to have this be something that can't be moved, so if I'm really, really sure that I want that thing to stay there and I don't want it to get wiggled around when I mess with other stuff, I can lock its location. And then, also I can delete whatever it is if I want to. Now there's other things that you can deal with in the layout function. The square here, I can put in other stuff. Like I have an IBC water tote for watering my garden. So you can build this out however you want. First you put stuff into the calendar, then you put it into the layout, and then when you are actually doing your garden, you're going to come over here to your navigation menu, and you're probably going to live in your tasks and your journal. These are the two that you're going to use throughout the gardening season. The task section is the computer telling you what to do. Okay. So based on the calendar that you set up, you can see I've got some stuff overdue that I need to check off. For the week, it'll tell you what you're past due on. It'll tell you what you're due for this week. Not only will it tell you what to do, but if I'm supposed to be planting something out, it'll tell me where to plant it. And this number here is how many I said that I was going to plant. You got tons of information here. If you complete these things late, it will actually alter the rest of the timeline, which is amazing, so that it knows like, hey, you didn't get that out, you got it out a month late, so your harvest is probably going to be a month late. So that's amazing. So the task list is the computer telling you, hey, this is what you're supposed to do, as opposed to the journal, which is you telling the computer, here's what actually happened. If you had something weird happen, like what happened last April, I planted out a bunch of seeds and then we had like a deluge of rain. And so that's what happened. But when you put in a journal note, you can attach things to it. You can attach tasks to it. So you can say this was a note on my bed preparation or my transplanting, or you can attach a location to it. Like where was I dealing with a particular pest, or where was I dealing with a particular issue in the soil, so you might need to deal with soil amendments. You can attach a particular crop to it. So if I'm thinking about, did I like peaches and cream corn? Let me look back at my notes about that. And that's great if you're doing 2 or 3 different varieties of things. You can remember, oh yeah, we really liked this tomato. We didn't really love that tomato. Super handy for keeping records, because I don't know about you, but I can't keep all that stuff in my head. Those are the main things that you're going to be doing when you are functionally using this program. But you see, there's all this other stuff. And I'm going to go into that stuff in another video, because it is just as interesting as the things that I just showed you.